Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast at Genesis Communications Network in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, 712-770-9418 when we are live. That's between the hours of 9 a.m. Through 11 a.m. Central. One more time, 712-770-9418 when we're live, 9 through 11 a.m. Central Time. Rich Scheben's with us. Welcome, Rich Scheben.
Well, thank you, Mr. Finelli. Life is good in Montana. Winter is a short timer, even though it's very cold this morning, about 9 degrees. And just looking forward to spring, even though we didn't really have a winter here. It's crazy. All this doggone global warming.
Yeah. I'm really confused, Rich Scheben. I'm looking at a bill you sent me. It says I owe you $54.09 for an item that you got from me, but then there's some fees associated with this. So $54.09 for you, but then there's a $30 desulfator fee, and then there's a Trump derangement therapy fee. Then there's a politically correct management fee. Then there's a sensitivity training tax. That's $8. That's not too bad. But the politically correct management fee is $10. The Trump derangement therapy fee is $10. The promoting the double standard, that's a $9 fee. And then then the pedophile conspiracy theory fee is $14. Then the lowering bar. Well, actually, this one's not too bad. It's lowering the bars and standards and expectations and hoaxes. That's $8.50. Bottom line is, you owe me $35.
When we talked privately yesterday, and you got the primary portion of that letter, you didn't have your glasses on, so you didn't look at the joke, which was that attached to it. I just wrote it down real fast just to make you laugh. And obviously you thought it was funny because you're saying it over the air.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was in first of all, I just came in and I was in the dark and the lights weren't on. It was dark in the farmhouse. I just ran in and I saw Mrs. Finelli handed this to me while I was on the phone, and I couldn't read it. It was dark, and I didn't have my reading glasses on. I could read it without my reading glasses, but it was because it was dark. I couldn't read it. Right. So yeah. Hey, thank you. Hey, by the way, we have Craig in Ohio is joining us for a couple minutes. He called me yesterday and said that he wanted to tell us about a product that he has that he'd like to share. So we've got Craig Douglas, USA Prepares instructor in Ohio this time. He travels all over the country, and this time he's in Ohio. Normally he's, not normally in Ohio. Craig, what's up? What's your concern, and what do you want to share with us?
Hi there, Vincent. I recently acquired, well, first of all, let me start by saying there's been a huge run on one of my websites for gas.
Craig, hold on one second. Craig, hold on one second. You're overdriving really badly. Can you step away from the microphone a little bit on your phone? Let's try it again so we can hear you, because we can't understand you. It's all garbled. Go ahead. Did we lose you?
Okay, let me try this. Does that work better?
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, way better.
Yeah, there's been on one of my websites, there's been a huge increase, in fact, a 3,000% increase in January for gas masks and gas mask filters and such. And unfortunately, the people are reacting. That's not really prepping, you're reacting to the news. And that's kind of inappropriate for what we're talking about here with this coronavirus. So I'm trying to deflect people from jumping out and buying a gas mask. There's other options that are better. And I recently came across, I did a show in Ohio actually last weekend, and I came across pallets of these Department of Defense pandemic flu preparedness kits. Now, these are kits that if our government is competent enough and if this virus becomes a huge problem in the U.S. and they declare some type of emergency, then these are the kits that the government would hand out to people in order to prepare and to care for sick people that they may have in their homes. So these are government issue pandemic flu preparedness kits. Inside these kits, we have several items. Probably the most important actually is the instruction booklet that comes with it that tells you what to do, how to care for somebody, how to prevent yourself from getting it, hygiene practices, and so on. So actually, that's actually very appropriate part of the kit. And you can look at what they say about that right now if you want. You can look at the brochure right on the government website. It's called pandemicflu.com. That's actually a CDC site, but pandemicflu.com. But it's a common sense information that people all over the world are getting. No matter if you don't like the CDC, well then fine, check out what Germany's saying, whatever. But it's common sense dealing with the flu. Okay, so it comes with that instruction kit. It comes with a total of 6 masks. 4 of those masks are surgical masks, and these are the ones that, according to the instructions, are to be worn by people who are already sick. And these are, they loop around the ear and they cover the mouth and the nose. And these are, and by the way, Vincent, the funny part about this, when I looked at the kit very closely, these masks are made in China. The irony,
Yes,
and it
yes.
also comes with 2 other, what they call NIOSH N95 masks. That's Nancy 95. These are the masks that everybody is apparently scrambling to get, and that apparently you can't get anywhere anymore at the moment. And this also covers your mouth and your nose. And these are the ones that, according to the instructions, are to be used by the person taking care of the sick person. Or if you want to venture out in public where there's a lot of people or you have a lot of close contact with people who may be sick, these are the types you might want to use. It also comes with a 4-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer, and it's actually the Purell brand. It comes with a 4-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer. And that's what is in this kit. Now, and like I say, the kit, if things get really bad, you probably could pick these up for free eventually, and if the government's competent enough to distribute them in a proper manner. We don't know. It's not the case yet in the United States. So, but I have them available, and I have quantities. I don't know how long they'll last. As soon as one person dies in this country, I have a feeling there's going to be a mass panic of people ordering even more things like this, and I won't be able to keep in stock gas masks or these pandemic kits. But I have these kits right now are about $10 on eBay. If you go on eBay and look, you'll find they're generally going for about $10. I have them for lower than that on the website. The website to go if you want to look at these is theprepperstop.com. That's, of course, one word, theprepperstop.com. And these are, I got them for, if you buy 5 kits at a time, I got them for $9 each. You buy 10 kits at a time, I got them for $8 each. You buy a whole case of 21, an oddball number, but if you buy a whole case of 21, they're $7 each, and I have to charge shipping though. And they have to go ground because of the liquids in the kit, meaning the hand sanitizer. These have to be shipped ground, so they'll take a little bit longer, especially if you're all the way in California or something. So you'd have to expect a little bit of a longer time on, especially the full cases. So the gas masks, unfortunately, they're selling, and I still have them in stock. But honestly, gas masks are the wrong thing to be buying for this necessarily. It's way overkill, and you're not going to be able to wear a gas mask out in public. I mean, unless things are so bad, there's bodies in the street or something, gas mask is inappropriate anyway. Anytime you're talking a biological, unless you know you're being attacked at that moment, a gas mask really makes no sense. Yes, they have NBC filters, nuclear, biological, chemical, but unless you know you're being attacked, a gas mask really doesn't do you any good unless you wear it all the time. And unless you've been wearing a gas mask for the last 2 months, no, you aren't protected from the coronavirus. And if you try to wear a gas mask that long, I guarantee you're going to have a big face full of bed sores. And I don't know how you're going to eat except drinking things through a tube. So the gas masks are really the wrong thing. I try to discourage people from buying gas masks for this incident that's potentially could hit this country. So that's about it. The other things you may want to buy also, and you can get most of this from your grocery store, and I think grocery stores are probably still stocked enough on this stuff because there hasn't been that much of a run. Hand wipes, your basic disposable hand wipes that you can get anywhere. Rubber gloves. You might want to get some colloidal silver. That can help disinfect things, and also other types of disinfectants that you can get in your grocery store. So these are the kind of common sense things you ought to have around. And these kits would be just supplemental. That has some of the masks that everybody is scrambling for. And so that's why I called Vincent, and I want to make sure everybody knew about this because my website just isn't high ranked enough to be noticeable. So that's the reason I'm trying to get the word out while I still have these to people who might want them. Of course, if we really prepared to begin with, we wouldn't need these because you already have all this stuff. But I think a lot of people probably aren't quite prepared as much as they would like to. And maybe you have family members that now maybe kind of believe that you weren't so crazy after all for preparing, and maybe you want to give some of these kits to your family members. So that's about it, Vincent. To talk about it,
Craig,
if you want more.
Thank you very much. I'll give out your telephone. I'm sorry, not your telephone, the prepperstop.com several times during this broadcast, and I'll repeat it during the next several days. I want to add to that what you said. Hand wipes, sure. Rubber gloves, meaning latex gloves. Fruit preparation gloves, absolutely. Colloidal silver, absolutely. Hydrogen peroxide, I'd like to add that to the list. Get it now while you still can. It's very inexpensive, less than $1 per quart. And unscented chlorine bleach. And you can look up how to use all these things on the internet while the internet is still running fine. Okay, so that's my thoughts. And do I have all these things? Absolutely. Do I have the masks? Absolutely. Craig, before you called, I bought them probably several months ago. Something told me to get them. And they were available. And, at that time, nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them. Literally, nobody wanted them. So, instruction booklet, 6 masks, 4 surgical for those who are already sick, 2 N95 masks for the caretakers, and if you venture out in the public, which I recommend you minimize your exposure, 4 ounces of Purell hand sanitizer, less than $10 from Craig Douglas's website, theprepperstop.com, theprepperstop.com. Craig, are you going to any shows that we can meet you at in the next week or two?
Yeah, I don't know which show I'm doing this weekend yet, though. I have to plug in something.
Okay. Look on Craig's website for that, theprepperstop.com, and call me, and I will make that announcement as well, okay?
Okay.
Craig, thank you so much for calling us.
Yeah, thanks for the time, Vincent.
You're welcome. That was Craig Douglas, USA Prepares Instructor. He asked me if he could share that announcement. And so Craig is a great unseller. If you ask him to buy something that's at his table when he's at a gun show, he'll ask you why you think you need it, and he'll probably tell you not to buy it because he'll tell you don't need it. He does that all the time. And I've known Craig before he knew who I was for years, like 20 years. He's been to the house. He stayed over here. He's come to the expo. He's given presentations at the expo. So there it is. And the Prepper Stop, theprepperstop.com. Rich Scheben and I will be right back. And I'm going to sit back and relax and listen to Rich Scheben's presentation for the next hour and 40 minutes. We'll be right back. Rich Scheben's with us, and just a very quick announcement, a sad one. Rush Limbaugh has been a broadcaster for 31 plus years, has announced yesterday that he has advanced lung cancer. I talked with Steve Elkins about that yesterday. Advanced lung cancer typically means stage 3 or 4. So please consider saying a prayer for Rush Limbaugh, broadcaster, who has advanced lung cancer. Very difficult to treat, very difficult to deal with. And your prayers would be certainly appreciated. Rush Limbaugh has been a talk radio broadcaster for decades. And he's not the first. He's not the first, but he's the biggest. Absolutely the biggest. So that being said, if you pray, would you consider saying a prayer for Rush Limbaugh? And we have lost a number of broadcasters to cancer. Stan Monteith, Joyce Riley, and others who have dropped off the air and are still with us, but are no longer on the air because of the diseases that they are suffering. There are fewer and fewer of us on the air now because disease is taking us out. Rich Scheben?
Yeah, Vince, I appreciate you giving me the time to exercise my First Amendment rights. First of all, regarding cancer, regarding the coronavirus, like Craig was just talking about, it's so important right now that we concentrate on immune stimulants in lieu of immune suppressants. And you don't have to get real fancy. It could be garlic, onions, ginger, horseradish, cayenne pepper, cabbage family, all the cabbage family, kale. There's a lot of immune stimulants that have antioxidant, in other words, boosts your immune function. So we have to think about really what does our immune system deal with? And it deals with a lot of things that kills us. Inflammation, circulation, allergies, infections, detoxifications, as well as cancers and tumors. So we have to look at the big picture. We have to go back in time and relearn those old 19th century skills. Our vitamins and minerals come from the soil. If you're living in urban, suburban America and you're buying your vegetables local in a farm right on the edge of the city, or coming from a different country where who knows what kind of pesticides they legally can use, but yet bring it into the U.S. even if we can't use those certain pesticides. Never mind Roundup, glyphosate, that's in almost every food. And the importance of realizing how important enzymes are. Enzymes are a group of proteins that are produced by living cells that act as catalysts for biochemical reactions in the body, which aids in digestion and nutrient support. Now, when you cook your food over 130 degrees Fahrenheit, you're killing the enzymes. Plus, so many of our foods now has been in the laboratory, proteins, enzymes, yeasts, amino acid, they've literally been modified in the laboratory. So we are not getting the proper nutrients. Nutrition is the key here. And as far as hydration is concerned, because when you deal with cancer, hydration, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and excess exposure to chemicals is really the key. We are drinking, too many of us who live in urban, suburban America are literally drinking fluoride, which even China classifies as a rat poison. China labels it as a pesticide. It makes women sterile, makes people docile, creates tooth decay, brain lesions, and so much more. So we have to look with some foresight here and figure out what is killing us, because the powers that be, and I'm going to talk about this in my little presentation today, are obviously trying to reduce population. Now, Craig he made a couple of implications about the CDC, if you trust them, the government, and things like this. I just don't see us counting on the government. And I'm going to go into more detail about where our tax dollars are going and all this talk about population control from the Kissingers, Britain royalty, Bill Gates, and others when we come back.
Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, very quick question. You mentioned antioxidants to improve your immune system, kale, onions, garlic, cabbage. Growing garlic, the reason I'd like to ask you about that is because 80% of garlic comes from the Chi-Coms, Communist China, 80%. And some of the garlic, probably most of the garlic you buy from supermarkets has been treated chemically, so it will not grow. Have you grown garlic, and if so, what are your recommendations?
I grow garlic every year. It's one of the easiest vegetables to grow. I will plant it in the fall before the ground freezes, usually end of October, early November. And I buy all my seeds from heirloom, open pollinated seed sources, and that includes bulbs like garlic. And if I don't buy my garlic from them, I buy it from a local grower that I absolutely know is a viable, clean, non-pesticide type garlic. It's just important, folks, to get it in the fall so you can plant it before the frost comes. Because if you plant it in the spring, you're not going to get anything. Now, when I talk about antioxidants, if you live in urban, suburban America and you can't grow a garden, I really recommend things like vitamin D3. That's D as in David, 3. That's a big anti-cancer tumor fighter. I recommend selenium. And you don't want to overdo this stuff. You just take it probably 3 times, 4 times a week, and you'll be fine. But you have to think about immune stimulants. Now, I am a huge, I have a vice for sugar, for sweets. I can actually eat probably a quart of ice cream every day. I don't, but I could. That's how much I enjoy it. So I really recommend you keep away from sugar, especially these days because everything is fake. I mean, there's who knows how many dozens of MSG are out there under different names. Aspartame, artificial sweeteners, nicotine, high fructose corn syrup, and it's all designed to be addictive. I mean, we have propylene glycol, which is an additive in foods, which is used for antifreeze. There's an acronym that I've mentioned before that you should keep in mind. It's called SARP, S-A-R-P, synthetic, artificial, refined, and processed. The less you intake those, the healthier you are going to be. Vince?
Yeah, absolutely. SARP. Great acronym. Rich, when you grow garlic, have you ever grown it in buckets?
I don't. I have raised bed gardens here, so I don't need to shortcut gardening that way. And I really recommend, I mean, we've talked about this till we're both blue in the face, the importance of getting a little acreage, like a 20-acre plot of land that has natural resources that you can create your own compost. In other words, make your own soil and be as organic as possible. So that's what people need to do, especially in this time of this period where 70% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in the bank. We need to start taking care of ourselves because it's just like Craig, he might have implied it, but talking about the CDC and our government, we have, I mean, look at the CIA, the FBI, and the DOJ. They have literally conducted a coup against our president. Trump is surrounded by cowardice, people who dub themselves self-importance, treasonous, seditious, overpaid people who care about more than what goes in their wallet and more about political correctness to manage and control and divide the people than the American people themselves. What this system has created is a manufactured caste system. And when he was talking about the coronavirus, I want to put my 2 cents in here. Like the World Health Organization, they are connected by the hip to the UN. We have a lot of information that we don't know about. Lately, in the last 48 hours, it's pretty obvious that this virus is a geo-engineered virus. In other words, made as a bioweapon. So we have to ask ourselves a lot of questions that we don't know of. Is this vaccine going to be used as blackmail from the New World Order to Trump and the U.S. to say, well, you better follow our strategies of world government control or else you're not going to get this vaccine? Or could it be, could this have been made or released to stop the Hong Kong riots because the people want to be free in Hong Kong? Is it used to destroy economies? You know, how are you going to take down Trump at this point in time? You destroy the economy, right? The people on the left has been saying this for months, for a couple of years. How do you know this isn't done to lower our immune system and make us more susceptible for the next bioweapon that comes down the pike? How do you know this isn't done to saturate and clog the news wires? How about a planned patsy for a fake economy? How do you know that this isn't to make a vaccine push to lower everybody's immune system, make everybody die early? How do you know this isn't regarding some of these declassifications when Obama shipped cash to Iran and weapons? How do you know this isn't a beta test? You know, and regarding vaccines, most contain, and this is admitted, mercury, MSG, formaldehyde, aluminum. They're all potent neurotoxic chemicals or heavy metals. You know, let me continue with what I was going to say, Vince, if that's okay. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because every gazillionaire, multi-billionaire, billionaire, you know, Kissinger, Bill Gates, British royalty, dozens other have come out in public and said that we need to reduce population. Now, I don't want to debate whether we need it or not. Can you make an argument that 7 billion people on this planet is too much? Yes, you can. But when you talk, when the so-called powers that be, especially on the left, uses words like humanity, I'm not buying any of it. I want to tell you where your I got a short list here, folks, to show you where your taxpayer dollars go. Are you ready? Here we go. Eugenics, wars, bio and chemical weapons, NGOs, dirty vaccines, cancers, foundations, geoengineering, the poisoning of water, fluoride, pesticides, estrogen in water, all the contamination, the hundreds of chemicals in municipal and city water, contamination of food from red dye to GMOs to hormones, steroids, and antibiotics, and modified proteins, amino acid, enzymes, meat grown in laboratories, surveillance, censorship, social and political indoctrination of schools, abortions. Now, a little sidebar here. I don't think abortions would even be an issue if the Democrats didn't say that you can abort your baby at the time of birth and even after. I think if people had abortions early in their cycle, I think this wouldn't even be an issue. Next, transgender surgeries. Teaching children to choose your sexual identity as young as 4 years old. Bailing out banks. Bailing out Wall Street. And that includes banks abroad. Bailing out hedge funds. World government. UN. Epstein Island for the purpose of blackmail run by our intelligence agencies. All propaganda, hoaxes, false flags, especially coming from the mainstream media. And that includes lies and gaslighting. What else do your taxpayer dollars go to? The IRS, Congress, hidden bunkers for the elite, grants, and I could do 5 shows on this. All the money that comes from the taxpayers in the form of grants, whether it be for Big Pharma to create a vaccine or to study why lesbians are so overweight, and there's much more in between.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And
How come they're so overweight?
So I got a few more to put on this list, if you don't mind. It's just, folks, I shortcut everything. What's that?
We've got Kyle on hold. I just want to let you, Kyle's on hold. Go ahead.
Okay. Also, what else does the taxpayer monies fund? Gag orders like NOAA for scientists, funding who gets protection rights and restitution under the rule of law based on group self-pity points, lowering the bars of standards and expectations for getting a job, demonizing the Constitution, drag queen story times. That's right, folks. Your taxpayer dollars. Stock buybacks, buying debt, bailing out corporations and buying their debt, as well as treasury bills. Do you know that foreign aid, regarding this Ukraine scandal, foreign aid in general, money has been going to socialist, tyrannical dictators in all countries from the U.S. who put that money in their private Swiss bank accounts. Also, money comes back to foundations like the Clinton Foundation for bribes and payoffs, and money has been going to buy weapons to kill Americans. Just FYI, foreign aid is not in the Constitution. All this corruption has created such a wide variance between the haves and the have-nots. And this is a saying I heard back in the 70s or early 80s in New York. It's not even the haves and have-nots. It's the have-nots and the have-yachts. It's the hierarchy paying the aristocracy with our dollars and vice versa. So let me continue with this after Drag Queen Story Hour. All the bailouts, government monetizing debt, the Ukraine, Russian, impeachment, Mueller hoax. Hundreds of millions of dollars of your money was spent on this. Folks, it's gotten to the point where we're all wondering if these declassifications are going to occur. You look at when all this came out with Epstein and pedophile, there was supposed to be 10,000 indictments and arrests and convictions from CEOs to politicians to Hollywood, between Wiener's laptop. There's no accountability. We have a special tiered system of rules, laws, and accountability based on what your victim group status is and your protectionist group status is. And that is it.
All right. Okay, hold that thought, and we'll be right back. Kyle in Montana is on hold. We'll be with you in just a few short moments, Kyle. Rich Scheben's with us in Montana. Kyle is joining us in Montana as well. Welcome, Kyle.
Is this the Radicalized Patriots channel?
Could be. Could be. I have been.
Oh my goodness!
My mother had a friend in Virginia, and I was fighting two wars. One was to put a private prison across from our farm, diagonally across from our farm, and the other was to put a dump in our county near our farm. And my mother had a senior citizen friend who said, "Your son is a radical." That was way before I became a broadcaster. So I guess the answer is yes. Yeah.
Hey, we're so radical. We have the newest IG report just came out that proves, I'm using the term prove, Obama spied on the Trump campaign prior to him being president and during him being president. So, yeah, we're radical. We use objective facts and truth. How dare we? What a shock.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, I want to know how you ended up in the banana belt up there. I only got 4 degrees this morning.
Well, actually, Kyle, this is one of our coolest days. As you know, we haven't even had a winter yet this year. I can't remember. I've been in Montana almost 35 years. I cannot remember so many days in December and January in the 40s, and even a couple in the 50s. 4 days ago, we had 50 degrees here. It's ridiculous.
We did too. Yeah, we had 52. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
I may have 1/8 of an inch of snow on northern slopes. Maybe. I don't think we had over 5 inches of snow, total accumulation, all year. It's insane.
I agree with you. I don't think I have either. Yeah, same thing. But I looked in the paper, and our snowpack is a few days ago was 114% of normal. So we're doing quite well. I wanted to jump back.
I agree.
Yeah. I wanted to jump back just a quick thought for people. One, I agree with Rich that Dr. Shealy recommends 50,000 units of vitamin D3 once a week, and that's what I try to do, along with about 10,000 units of K2, if I remember correctly. But you need to take the K2 with the D3 because keep the D3 from oxidizing in your blood, I guess. It's kind of what Dr. Shealy was saying. The other thing is, if this coronavirus gets really bad, folks, learn and get on the internet or figure out a way to make your own colloidal silver and get the stuff to be able to make it now. It's really not that expensive. It's not as perfect as some of this new, the really manipulated stuff that can make it into these super small particles, but getting it in you is really important, and being able to suck it into your sinuses as well is important. And the last thing I was going to say is that learning how to take garlic and eat it raw on a consistent basis is really important. I know you might think you stink and stuff like that, but I used to work with a Mexican guy, and he would literally eat 2 or 3 little cloves of garlic at lunch, and he used to tell me that was his Mexican medicine. And I didn't never miss work either, but I never seen him miss a day of work either. But anyway, I think that kind of stuff is really important. Make you a tincture out of it as well. Put about 10 cloves or 12 cloves of garlic in a quart jar and cover them with vodka or Everclear or something, and fill the rest of it up with distilled water and shake it up once a day for 30 days. And then take a teaspoon or a teaspoon of that probably would be fine, but take a teaspoon of that or so a day if it gets really bad. Those are quite, helpful things.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a suggestion as well. What I do is I get fresh, very hot peppers like jalapeno or cayenne, wash them with rubber gloves or latex gloves or food gloves, sterile type gloves, and cut them up, put them in a blender, without the stems, and I put garlic, peel the garlic, put that in without the skins, and add some vodka, and then I blend it into a mash, kind of like almost like a thick soup, if you will. And then I put that into a jar that will be filled about 90% full with a good tight lid. And then I put that in a cabinet, shake it a couple times a day, and it will settle. And within a month or so, you have a tincture. I don't add the water or distilled water, but I suppose you can. Kyle, would you share with us how to grow garlic? Have you grown it in a bucket yet?
Oh, I'm not in a bucket. Well, I can share with you how to do that. We have done it before a long time ago. I'll stay with you.
All right, we'll be right back. Slight detour just to teach us how to grow garlic. We'll be right back. Rich Scheben's with us. Kyle is helping us understand how to grow garlic. Rich Scheben mentioned it to boost your immune system. I am hot on the trail of this. I would like to grow it in buckets immediately for our class. I'd like you to learn how to do this. Kyle, please help us.
Well, like Rich said, growing garlic is really not hard at all. And if you want to grow it in buckets, that's fine. I use what I always try to do, like in my beds, which is like a large bucket. Okay, so mine's outside now. I cover it with about 6 inches of straw. I plant it in the fall. When you break the bulbs apart, you have to put the little rough end down with the point up when you plant it. And I plant mine a couple of inches below the surface, and then I cover it with about 6 inches of straw. But if you wanted to grow something right now, you can. You would just I like a loose, not too loose, but heavy, nutriented type soil. Like garlic and broccoli and stuff like that are heavy feeders. And if you want to grow great nice big bulbs. I put a good bunch of manure and stuff in the soil and good black dirt, and plant them a couple of inches deep. I plant mine about every 4.5 to 6 inches apart because I like them to grow great big bulbs. And I plant a combination of this. We have this Italian kind of it doesn't make as big a bulb. It's really powerful though, really strong type of garlic. And we plant elephant garlic, it's called, which makes a very large pod with a lot of very large cloves. I had some last year of the elephant garlic that was right at 4 inches across. And so they're really nice, big, and just loaded, probably 20 little cloves in this pod. But it's not quite as strong as the Italian garlic. But we like to use it in different things. And I make my tinctures, my garlic tincture, I make that out of the more powerful Italian type. I can't remember the actual name of it, but it's kind of a reddish purple little pod. I plant them in there, and then all you do is just make sure they stay damp, and they'll grow. And then you just let them keep growing. And once when mine go through, mine are already made by, they'll start popping up. Probably depends on the weather, of course, but at least by the first part of April up here, April, May, first part to mid-April, it'll start popping up in the ground. I clear the straw off of it then, and then it'll be done by September-ish. And the crazy thing about garlic that people will wonder, even if you keep it watered and stuff, it'll grow and it'll be this big, beautiful shoot. And if it looks like it's got seed pods coming off the end of it, and you want to concentrate, you might want one of those for seed that you want to keep, but the rest of them you want to cut off, and because you want the plant to put as much energy into the pod itself rather than trying to go to seed. So anyway, cut those off except for maybe one or two you want to keep for seed for the next year. The other thing is when they're growing, you'll see this great big beautiful shoot and stuff like that, and all of a sudden it'll start drying up and looking kind of weak, and you're starting to wonder, at least new people will. You'll start to wonder, what in the world did I do wrong? Got too much water on this, not enough water, too hot, too cold, something, And but the reality is it's done. And when it starts turning to this brown twig that's sticking up above the ground like that, it's finished. And in reality, you could pull it and process it right then. But do not plant it then. You want to wait on planting it if it's outside. You're not in the bucket. But if you want to wait and plant it just before first snow or something, and again I go back in there and I put manure and stuff into the ground and hit it with my little mantis tiller and break the soil up real good, and I plant it, and then I throw the straw over it and go for round two. I usually plant about, right at 40 to 50 pods of the elephant garlic and about 20 to 25 pods of the Italian. That's what I did this last year.
Where do you get the garlic bulbs? Can you buy them at a store? Because my understanding is they won't grow because they've been chemically treated not to grow. They used to. They used to grow if you kept garlic in the dark, in a kitchen cabinet, for example, in one of those breathable net bags, they would start to grow. But now they don't. They just dry out.
Well, I think now I've not tried this because there's a lady that years and years ago there was a lady up north of us here that was good friends of ours, and she just lived in another kind of banana belt area, and she would haul in all of this manure, and she was known for having just amazing garlic. And I talked to her. We were friends with her anyway, and so she gave me my starter bulbs years ago, many years ago, and I just continue to use the same ones. And then I've probably got a flat right now of garlic down there in the cellar that is, and it's too deep, and a flat that's, one of those fruit flats that's about maybe 18 inches wide and 2 feet deep, and is probably too high, just full of garlic that we're still using and everything. So I use my own garlic that I just keep reusing the same breed and the same brand, so to speak, every year. But I got mine from her because I know she doesn't use any chemicals whatsoever. She had cancer, so she fights. She has all organic everything, and really amazing gardener.
What we'll do is we'll keep you posted. We're going to start growing it, and we'll give you some more information over, following broadcasts. So also look up how to grow your own garlic. I think you ought to consider doing that now, right now. Kyle, anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I'll let, I know Rich does a lot of preparation, so I'll get off here and let him get with it. But good job, Rich. You're doing great. And both
Thank
you
you,
guys.
sir.
See ya.
Thank you, Kyle. There goes Kyle. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you mentioned kale, onions, garlic, cabbage, D3, selenium, because we need to boost our immune systems. Rich, I'll sit back, relax, and enjoy the class. Please continue.
Yeah. Just a little exclamation point on all this, folks, is that whether it be the World Health Organization, the CDC, the FDA, it doesn't matter. It's all revolving doors between big corporate CEOs to head this stuff. They don't care about much besides funneling money into their wallet, controlling you, and they have prioritized money over human life. In other words, the bottom 93% is collateral damage. Now, before I start going into news in a flash, I'm going to have to cut some articles out because I'm running out of time here. I want to congratulate the UK for Brexit and for trying to be free. I know we have listeners all over the world, so I want to thank the UK for their efforts for freedom and liberty, and I wish you the best of luck. And I also want to congratulate the Kansas City Chiefs, Coach Andy Reid, players Patrick Mahomes, Frank Clark, who's an obvious patriot. You know, when I was looking at the comments after the Super Bowl around the Internet, you would not believe how many people were rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs because they were calling the San Francisco 49ers the San Francisco 40-kneelers because of Kaepernick and what he's done. And, of course, we all know that San Francisco is Nancy Pelosi's district, and basically she doesn't give a damn about anybody unless they have huge bucks. So, again, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, going back to news in a flash, Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler takes aim at Romney. He says he just wants to appease the left. No, the reason why Romney is a rhino is because he has a son who's also on boards of energy companies in Ukraine, just like Pelosi, just like Biden, all these people. They use the system for their own personal benefit, not to care about the people. Now, I read that in only one article because a lot of this information is getting purged so the people can't get this information. Next article. New York City, alleged fentanyl ring kingpins released without bail. Kingpins released without bail, thanks to the new Democrat social justice law. In other words, folks, when you have people, family members, friends who die of overdose of drugs, you can be assured that the violators, the criminals, will go free, and your family is collateral damage. Next article. New Yorkers forced to apply for stargazing permit to view the night sky. I know sometimes some of you think I'm making these articles up, but these are all published articles in the public domain. So your drug in New York City, your drug people who can kill people left and right can go free, but at the same time you have to pay extra tax dollars to look at the night sky. These are all recent articles. Next article. Public New York City preschool teaches kids they can pick their own gender. Boy, anybody who's in New York and New Jersey or California or Illinois or half of those broke states, you better get the hell out of there before you have nothing. Next article. Washington Democrats push LGBTQ sex ed for kindergartners. Next article. I was laughing at a joke and not any one of those group of people, unquote. When Don Lemon has been caught insulting us irredeemables, us white people, us white males. He's basically saying, oh, no, it was only a joke. He's a liar. We'll be back after the break, folks, and I will continue the news in a flash. Thank you for being with us.
Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, just a quick question. Night sky permit? What's that all about? How does that work?
Yeah, they're actually New York City wants to charge the people for looking through telescopes and basically studying astronomy and charge them a fee. It's kind of like, remember when New Jersey came up with a tax or a fee? It doesn't matter what you call it. It's taking money from the people for having too much concrete or asphalt on their property because the water couldn't seep regularly. Yeah. This is a similar. So New York City bright lights making stars over the metropolitan nearly invisible. Many New Yorkers head to state parks to get a glimpse of the night sky, but now they're going to need permission from the state to do so. And yes, citizens are being forced to pay fees to the state to enjoy taxpayer-funded parks. And I'm looking at a picture of the permit for stargazing access right now on this article.
Rich, this is inside out. See, if anything, the state and the cities should be prohibited from running their lights on the streets everywhere they have their lights, and then corporations should be charged for running their lights to obscure the night sky.
Oh, you're talking common sense and logic.
It's exactly backwards.
We're dealing with a corrupt government that has no bounds, that has no accountability, that has a special tiered system of rules, laws, and accountability based on what group you're in. There's absolutely no way that common sense and logic will prevail under these circumstances. Vince, we're running out of time. Let me just, what I'm trying to do, folks, I'm shortcutting everything. There's a bunch of articles I'm not going to have time to discuss, but what I'm trying to do is wake people up. I'm trying to make people realize how corrupt the whole system is. I'm trying to make people realize that the powers that be have to distract, dumb down, and divide us by groups in order for them to get away with all this crap. Vince, may I continue?
Oh, please do. Please do.
Thank you. Next article. Working class voters turn to Trump's GOP because the past Democrats are saying that Democrats are no longer looking out for them. So a lot of Democrats are moving to the GOP, to the Republican Party. Next article. Illinois governor keeps registering voters despite non-citizen voting. For those of you in Illinois, for those of you in America, you should be pissed off. Next article. Trump impeachment trial Chief Justice Roberts blocks alleged whistleblower's name, blocks questions. If you don't think that this guy, John Roberts, is bought and paid for, is owned, is on the take, then you are asleep, you're in a coma. He's the guy who basically approved Obamacare, which was a total failure. Next article. Hillary won't accept legal documents from Tulsi's defamation suit. She's the one who's been running around the country saying that nobody's above the law. And yet she's not accepting legal documents from a lawsuit. The hypocrisies and double standards is unfreaking believable. I almost can't even pronounce these words because these articles are so stupid. And it's unbelievable how the people, thank God we have our arms. I hope we don't have to use it, but we are run by a total big government, and big corporations are totally turned. They're on the take. They're corrupt. It's terrible. And speaking of, next article, Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, for those of you who don't know, he's the Prime Minister of Canada. He's proposing forced licensing for news sites. So basically, this is more surveillance, more censorship, and only so-called approved news sites is going to be able to get the information. More hoaxes, lies, propaganda, and false flags. Next article. How many millions did Obama give to Burisma? It's not just the Bidens. Over $50 million. I'll be back right after the break with more news in a flash, folks.
Rich Scheben's with us in Montana. Rich, please continue.
Well, thank you, Vince. And again, as I always say or try to, I want to thank you for allowing me to exercise my First Amendment rights. Now, next article, folks, in News in a Flash. Definition of rigged system. DNC changes debate rules for millionaire latecomer Mike Bloomberg. That's what they've been doing through all. The DNC has been doing this through the Ukraine hoax, the Russia hoax, the Mueller hoax, which cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, why? You just heard on the news just now about the Iowa caucuses. Are they experimenting with apps and electronic voting machines to manipulate the November vote? That's where I'm putting my bet. That's where my money's going. It's so corrupt. Until President Trump has to fix election and voter fraud. Has to. Next article. John Bolton praised President Trump's Ukraine call before getting fired. You can't make this stuff up. Next article. John Bolton took more than $100,000 from the Ukrainian Clinton donor right before entering the White House. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. I know it sounds like I am, but these are all published articles in the public domain, and you should be getting pissed off. Next article. Ilhan Omar paid $500,000 to her lover's firm. Boy, you taxpayers are really forking out the dollars, aren't you? And for the 70% of you who don't have $1,000 in savings, are you waking up? Hello? Next article, multiple arrests caught on video. I read the article and I saw the video. They're arresting Antifa people, and one of the Antifa people, while he was being arrested, was saying, "Oh, you can't arrest me. I have a father in the court system." Well, whether it be the highest of John Roberts or municipal courts around the country, it's all bought and paid for. It's all fake. It's all phony. When this thing collapses, we're going to see lawyers and judges and maybe even bankers and politicians hanging from streetlights. I'm not condoning anything, and I'm not predicting anything. But the system is so corrupt that the little people, we can't even sue because we don't have group self-pity points. You can't make this stuff up. It's hard to believe it's America. Next article. Homeowners Association, which is, you heard of them being called HOA, are accused of censorship over fines for negative social media posts. So now, whether even HOAs, if somebody in the building is making a negative post about their corruption, they're getting fined. This is ridiculous. This is censorship and surveillance. Big tech has to go. Are you happier, folks, with all this great technology? No, 95% of it is to control the people through censorship and surveillance. Next article. Virologists overseas production of vaccines make U.S. vulnerable to pandemics. You think? I mean, most of our drugs, especially generic drugs, come from China. Next article. Revealed. Pro-Biden super PAC bankrolled by real estate, Wall Street, and big oil. Imagine my shock. Next article. Joe Biden helped launch businesses for his son-in-law from the Oval Office. And apparently his daughter, I read an article, his daughter is in on getting some free money. Next article. Democrat caucus results frozen, broken reporting system. Basically, I just talked about that a few moments ago. I think they're experimenting with apps and electronic voting machines to figure out how they can manipulate November voting. Next article. Social media uses the Super Bowl Pepsi halftime to push racial division. How many thousands of times have I talked about divide and conquer strategies? This is one of them. But there's some good news, too. Burgess Owens. Now, I'm a Jet and Giant fan, or at least I was, before the kneeling occurred. The only time I watch the NFL now is some playoff games and the Super Bowl. My first Super Bowl was when Broadway Joe Namath in Super Bowl III beat the Baltimore Colts in 1969. I have not missed a Super Bowl, but I hardly watch games anymore because Kaepernick and the politics and the commissioner has ruined NFL football for most of us. Anyway, Burgess Owens, he used to be safety for the New York Jets and the Raiders. I think he won a Super Bowl with the Raiders. He is very anti-Colin Kaepernick. He's very pro-American. He had the guts when he talked to Congress a few months ago to actually say that the black community should literally sue the Democrat Party for decades and even centuries of abuse. And I agree with him 100%. Burgess Owens, I wish you the best of luck running for Congress in Utah. I think you'll make it. I hope you do. And I want to mention a few articles here real fast to show that we are living in Stupidville or Stupidistan. First article, child rapist to be released from prison because he changed his gender from a he to a she. I promise you, I know it sounds Twilight Zone. I couldn't, if I was a writer for a sitcom, I could not come up with this stuff. Next article. CNN is angry that too many white people are trying to stop the coronavirus. You can't make, it's unbelievable. Next article. Trump might, this is a quote from Adam Schiff. Trump might trade Alaska to the Russians. Are you kidding me? Trump might trade Alaska to the Russians. And Peter Schiff, if you're listening to this, I apologize. I didn't mean to mention Peter because he's a pretty famous guy. I meant to mention Adam Schiff. Next article. Schiff says, I don't know who the whistleblower is. Well, I think I've heard the name Adam Zamila or whatever his name is like 50,000 times from the alternative or new media. So how does he not know when the whole country does? Just a reminder, folks, Adam Schiff is the guy who read a made-up transcript of the Ukraine-Trump-Zelensky conversation after President Trump released the real transcript. You can't make this stuff up. We're living in a twilight zone. Next article. Adam Schiff slams John Bolton as a liar when just a few days ago he was saying how John Bolton is going to save the DNC and get rid of Trump. The hypocrisy, the double standard, they really think we have a memory of a goldfish. And here's one of the most stupid quotes of the week. Hakeem Jeffries said, Are you ready, folks? The Steele dossier wasn't foreign interference because it was purchased. That is so stupid. I'm a loss for words. And I'm going to make this the last article because we're running out of time. I know I'm hogging the airways here, Vince. With this, and this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek, and I don't know if this is real, but I got to put a little humor at the end of these real articles. Weinstein accuser, her name I think is Jessica Mann, M-A-N-N, and I have to check on that. But a Weinstein accuser of raping and forced oral sex, she said that he doesn't have testicles, that he's got to inject his penis to have sex, and that he has a vagina. So I don't know if this is a distraction to reduce credibility. Does someone in Weinstein's camp pay her off to say that, or is it true? I have no idea. But this is the world that we are living in, and I mean, it's Vince. I don't think the Twilight Zone writers could come up with fake science fiction stuff that is happening every 5 minutes in this country. Vince, is there anything there that makes you wonder if we're living in America right now?
All of it. Every bit makes me wonder. I keep thinking about The Walking Dead and Lucille. And for those of you who don't know who Lucille was, she was the wife of one of the principal characters. His name was Negan. And Negan was a guy who used to teach people short lessons. And he taught them graphically. He used a Louisville Slugger baseball bat with the business end wrapped in barbed wire. And it was always red with blood. And so he would say, the equivalent of, y'all look here, I want to show you something. This is how it works. And I'm wondering when we're going to read more stories about Lucille and people having lost it. I mean, people are attacking people. We've got the Chi Coms. It's now been reported that it's a bioweapon. We believed that it was a bioweapon when it first came out early last week. We said that we believed it was a bioweapon. We believed that it was from Canada, and in transportation somebody dropped the jar and broke it. But it actually looks like it was developed in China. This is an illegal act. Is this an act of war against the planet? Is it ecocide? Is it genocide? If you pay attention, class, we have been telling you for as long as we've been on the air, over 8 years. Get a farm. Get out of the way. Get out of the cities. But so few, if any, have actually done it. If any. Now, one of the things that's a common thread through many of our instructors is we've all done that. Not all of us, but many of us. Rich Scheben, Kyle, us. And without mentioning all the names, a whole bunch of us have done it. And we didn't just get on the air and say, let's all move out of Dodge. We already did it before we came on the air. We already did it because we knew this was coming. We didn't know exactly what it would be, but we felt that society would unravel. Did we know that you could pick your gender 8 years ago? No. Did we believe that you could pick your age 8 years ago? No. Many of the things that Rich has been talking about for years are just too unthinkable for someone with any common sense to even imagine.
You know, Vince, when I started talking about news in a flash and giving articles years ago, here and there, I bet you back then, and it's analogous to off-grid living. When I started living off-grid, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, a lot of people didn't know what that really meant. Now everybody knows. I believe that your audience, this audience, 99.9% of people might be in disbelief, but now they know that these articles are true. They're published in the public domain, and this is what's happening in America today.
Very quickly, George will be with you right after the break. Very quickly, I talked to a very well-educated person, and this person was unaware of the things that we're talking about, even the level of the coronavirus. But Scheben's with us, and George in New Hampshire is joining us. Welcome, George.
Hi, Vincent. Hi, Rich.
Hey, George.
I just wanted to weigh in on this. I read a very old account. When they had that Nicene Convention that came up with the Bible as we know it today, it was about 4 centuries after Christ and the apostles walked the earth. Now, what we've seen Rome decay from within. We've seen other empires rise and fall. And I used to wonder, why did they deteriorate? They would hit an apex, and then they'd just decay. And it was like something attacked it, and it seemed like it was almost like standard operating procedure in history. Now, I'll just like to say this on what you've been saying, Rich, about all the accounts. You're basically telling us all the symptoms that of this decay. And they have a saying, whom the gods destroy, think of gods as demons, who the demons destroy, they first make mad. And you can see it that in lifestyles, if people, I told you, Vincent, this once, that when these people are fooling around with drugs, they're breaking all kinds of moral rules and societal rules and rules that were handed down after centuries and thousands of years. Eventually, they reach a point like the ships of old that thought that if you sailed far enough away from land that you would fall off the edge. And when they fall off that edge, they don't realize that it could be the next step, that could be the 10th step. But when they get there and they fall off, what you're dealing with is a mind that has been converted and turned over to insanity. And their insanity becomes their sanity. And it's not compatible with what Christ said. He said that the thief comes to destroy, to kill. He goes, I come so that you can have life and life more abundantly. There's no middle ground with those two sides. I'll leave it with this. There was an ancient account, and it was recognized in the ancient traditions of Christianity and Judaism that after the fall onto this earth from Adam and Eve, and I don't mean to go on and on, but there's an important point, I think, here. They said that Adam was crying out to God, like, why didn't he get what the devil promised him? And so God made it so that he could appear in his true form, Satan. He sent Satan to the cavern where they were living, and he stood at the door, and he was hideous. And he says Adam was afraid to approach him, but God said, no, you approach him, and you'll be safe. And he asked him, he goes, why didn't you give me all the promises you made us in the gardens, that our eyes would be open, so on and so forth? Well, anyway, he says that Satan was compelled for one time after his fall to tell the truth. And what he said to Adam was, he goes, it'll be our good pleasure to make war on you. He goes, we don't know the day, we don't know the hour. He goes, but it's our abiding ambition that not one man, not one woman, not one child will survive on the earth when Christ comes back to form his kingdom. And this is what we see coming, is that these people that you see, they've made a covenant with evil. And what they're doing is they're playing with us now. If you look at television, you look at other things, you could see how it infiltrated and slowly corrupted from within. And it was so subtle that we didn't even see it coming.
Well, you know, we have seconds left, George. I always appreciate your comments. But you know what? We can't allow a different set of rules, laws, and accountability based on what group you're in. I mean, and you're mentioning Christianity, and that's great, but the divorce rate's between 70 and 75%, and there's no difference between the national divorce rate and Christians. There was 2 decades on television where wives were coming on TV saying that this is my starter marriage. I've seen churches go 501(c)(3). I've seen churches go out of business, mosques taking their place. I've seen political correct versions of the Bible, pedophilia with priests and bishops doing little boys and little girls all over the place, abortions, selling body parts, chopping them up while they're still alive. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But what's happening is, too, that people are afraid to speak up, and they've been groomed to accepting a different set of rules, laws, and accountability based on what group you're in, which disallows truth. That's my standing for principle right there. And until we get over that and have the same rules, laws, and accountability for everyone on American soil, it's going to continue happening. Corruption, manipulation, whatever. And this is what we have to strive for. It's
not going to happen, Rich. It's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because man without God is not a good thing. And what passes for Christianity now, remember, there was also this prediction. There'll be a form of godliness in the last days, but lacking the power thereof. So it's like having a placebo pill. It looks like a pill. You digest it like a pill, but there's no agent in it that's curative. And this is antidoteforall.com, gentlemen. I'm telling you, it's an ancient tradition. It's free. But if you do it, it will wake you up. And an inch in the right direction is worth 100 miles in the wrong directions.
Gentlemen,
Good
we're
day,
out
gentlemen.
of time.
God bless.
God bless. We're out of time.